Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
Yo.
CGO or George. We're releasing this on the 17th of May, 2026. Quick reminder: like us, subscribe us. We release short videos, Instagram and TikTok, and other platforms every single day. We release long videos, 20 minutes every day on YouTube. All right. So in the news for Saturday, the 16th, we have Celtic beat Hearts 2-1 to secure the Scottish Premier League title. Hearts were on top all
3-1.
season. Sorry, it's 3-1. Hearts were on top all season, and Celtic stayed in it. Got to the last part of the season. Got a last-minute penalty on Wednesday. It was somewhat controversial. Today, we're able to beat Hearts. They needed to win. Hearts needed a draw or to win themselves to win the league. But Celtic were at home and ended up pulling it out. 14th league title in 15 years for them. We have Manchester City beat Chelsea 1-0 in the FA Cup behind an absolutely fantastic goal from Antoine Semenyo. The rest of the game I felt was quite boring, but me and George will talk about that. And then probably the biggest news of the day was Xabi Alonso. It's basically made all but official. There's everything but the club announcement that he will be the next manager of Chelsea. George and I talked about that as a possibility, and now it looks like it's basically done and dusted, so we'll talk a little bit about that. George, first off, Celtic versus Hearts. Let's talk about this for a bit. Celtic stormed the field after they're winning their 14th title in 15 years. Do you feel like that's an appropriate reaction?
Well, I feel it's out of excitement, but most times I don't encourage such kind of actions from spectators because a lot of people, you don't know what their intention is. They might cause harm to the player under the disguise of trying to celebrate the victory of Celtic. So it's not something that should be encouraged. We know people can be very excited and they can do a lot of crazy stuff. But credit must go to Celtic because in that game, remember, they conceded first. Hearts got the first goal through Lawrence Shakanland. And then it was looking as if everything is going to work in favor of us. But before halftime, I think Celtic were able to get the equalizer through a penalty converted by Angels. And then in the second half, everyone was thinking maybe it might end in a draw because a draw will favor us. But
I watched the game, and Celtic were on top the entire. Their goal was coming, and Hearts didn't really provide much for the goal. And then after the second goal, Hearts started really pushing because they needed to, and that's when they opened up for that third goal.
Yes, so as soon as they considered the second goal, they knew they had to come out and play because a draw is enough. It's just enough for them to win the title. Unfortunately for them, they opened up and Celtic were able to get the third goal to wrap up things. And the good thing is that they've set a new record now because they've surpassed the record of Rangers. Remember, Rangers have won 55 Scottish a league title. Now Celtic has 56. So that's a new record and a good one for the club. They've really done very well. And I think they really worked hard for it. We'll say congratulations to them. So what it means is that now they will be playing in the qualifying series of the Champions League. Let's see what they'll be able to do. And we must give credit. Remember, they have a coach that came in when this wasn't going well. That is Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill is one coach I always remember when he was the coach of Aston Villa at some point.
Remember that as well.
Yeah. So I was very happy that he came in and he was able to
he was the Leicester coach for a while as well, Martin O'Neill, before I really started watching, but I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah. So Martin O'Neill is a very known name when it comes to coaching in the Premier League. And I was very impressed with what he was able to do to get things transformed for Celtic because they were struggling before he had to come in, and then they were able to win this big trophy. So that's a good one, and I'm happy for one of my Nigerian player called Kelechi Iheanacho. I know you know him. He once played for Manchester City, played
Also
for
Leicester.
Leicester City. Yeah. So before I think he went to Spain, and then I think from Spain, he now came down
He was in the
to
championship for a while, with for a season or two with
I think
Leicester as well.
Middlesbrough with Middlesbrough. I think he played in the
Yeah,
championship with Middlesbrough.
he had a play in this game where he nailed it. He did great. He deked 2 or 3 players. He created the space, and then he just hit it right off the post. I was like, oh my gosh, that's exceptional. I think he's a bit too good to be in the Scottish Premier League. I think that Championship is probably a more difficult league. Of course, I think Celtic, Rangers, and obviously this year Hearts are probably better than most Championship teams, but the Championship in general, week to week, is probably harder and a better league.
I think one of the challenge he had, he was struggling with fitness because at some point he was overweight, and that really affected the way he was playing. So I'm thinking coming to play in the Scottish League, a league that is not as highly competitive as the Premier League or the Championship. I think that might be a good place
Yes,
for him to pick up his
Championship,
form.
just like the MLS, like Championship is very physical, and no, it's not
Yes.
as technical as Spain or France, but it's more physical than those leagues. MLS too gets a lot of crap because it's not technical, but it or tactical, but physically it's arguably as hard as the Premier League. It's not a retirement league, and neither is the Championship. That's a really good point, George. If you're struggling for fitness, those are probably not the best leagues for you. George, let's move on to the FA Cup game. There was a absolutely fantastic goal by Antoine Semenyo. This was great. Haaland had the ball in the wing, which we actually don't see him one-on-one a guy very often. He was one-on-one with Cucurella. He just makes a simple pass back, cut back, and Semenyo, who's very well guarded, just dinks it to the back with his back heel, beats the keeper. I thought it was just a great finish from him. It was good vision. I just thought it was a wonderful goal. Do you have anything to add, George?
Honestly, that goal was a beautiful goal, and I love the combination of Haaland and Antoine Semedo. That was a very intelligent goal because lots of players will have such kind of opportunity. They won't score the goal the way Antoine Semedo was able to score that goal. So that flick from him with his back heel was a very smart thing indeed. As soon as they scored that goal, I knew it would be very difficult for Chelsea to come back into the game. Unfortunately for Chelsea, there were a lot of calls for penalty, which the referee, Darren England, didn't really get right.
Do you feel like any of those penalty calls had merit in them? One I thought was maybe probably could have been a penalty, but like it wasn't. It still wasn't this clear black and white. Like the Kuznetsov challenge, probably lean penalty for me, but like it's not absolutely needs to be a penalty. I don't think if VAR looked at it would overturn it. It's just my personal thought. I don't know if any of those were egregious.
Because if not for anything, the one that he committed against Gerald Atto was supposed to be a penalty. So the issue is that you even see the nonchalant attitude of even the VAR when those claims came up. The truth is that in this game, Chelsea was supposed to get at least a penalty in that match. And the funny thing is that Kuzenov was involved in all the three cases, apart from the one where we had an arm ball by Nico Riley. That one might be debatable, but the one of Jarohato was a clear penalty, in my own opinion. But
yeah,
it is what
I have the one. I'm looking, George. I am looking at the one on Yao Pedro right now on my screen right here, and this is Kuznetsov comes in, bodies him off the ball, doesn't play the ball, looks at Pedro. Again, it's not the contact in and of itself is not. I feel like it's not that bad. You could argue that he's playing the man and not the ball. He's not. It's not really a shove. Maybe by the letter of the law. I don't think if VAR called this as a penalty, I don't think it'd be overturned the other way. But like, I just don't see this as this clear cut Chelsea got robbed type situation. And this is in the 46th minute, 45+1. This is not late in the game. Like, and Chelsea, outside of a couple penalties, didn't offer much all game. Like, they had Palmer on the pitch, they had Pedro. Outside of a couple penalty calls, again, some of them had some merit to them, but I don't think any of them were clearly Chelsea getting robbed. Like, Chelsea didn't offer much in this game at all. In fact, Man City didn't offer that much either. It was a very, very boring game.
It was a boring game. But Joe, if you look at that incident in the first half, you notice that Kuzenov was not even looking at the ball. he was more interested in stopping João Pedro, and João Pedro was in control of the ball. Remember, we once said here that when a player is in control of a ball and you bring them down, that's supposed to be a penalty. Because if you look at it, people are saying, oh, he used his shoulder, but look at the contact between his leg and that of João Pedro. There was a contact. He brought the guy down, and nothing
You
was
don't,
done. No
but George,
penalty was given.
I mean, here's a situation though. You don't need to have touched the ball to control it. You know, I think that Kusanov does box out João Pedro close enough to the ball that, you know, Kusanov is then in control of the ball. And if João Pedro hits the ball 10 yards in front of him, I mean, that's not control of the ball. And again, Kusanov, I feel like, George, this is not Chelsea getting robbed. That you just can't convince me that it is. I'm just looking at it right now. I think that Pedro's looking for it. I feel like Kusanov has good position and Pedro runs right into him. I feel like this is just, again, for me, if it's a penalty, I'm not going to complain, but I don't think this is you getting robbed. I'll put it that way.
So all the four incidents, the penalty appeals, no one is worthy of being given as a penalty. Is that what you're saying?
You know, George, in a vacuum, I think that some of these, if they were penalties, I don't think I would complain a lot if they were. But I don't think any of these four situations that I've seen and I watched the game were Chelsea getting robbed by not getting a penalty. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Well, congratulations to Manchester City. Even though the game didn't live up to the expectation I was hoping to see, because I expected to see a lot of fireworks. But it was the match didn't look like a final, honestly. But we must give credit to Manchester City. They got the result, got the win, and credit must go to Pep Guardiola, who has won his 20th title
Very
with
good.
Manchester City.
George, let's move on a bit to Alonso, the big news of the day. So this has been tweeted not by the club itself, but earlier this week it was reported that we talked about it was close to an agreement. Today it was reported everything that's basically agreed to, they just need to announce it officially. George, I think this is a giant coup for Chelsea. I'm most surprised that Alonso wants to go to Chelsea. I think several high-profile managers have said no to Chelsea because it is such a chaotic mess the last 4 years. And it doesn't strike me as a great opportunity. I'm surprised there's been a lot of talk that Liverpool hasn't at least reached out to Alonso. This is the second time in 3 years they've been looking for a manager. They could potentially be looking for a manager, and Xabi Alonso has a history there. And I'm surprised Liverpool fans feel like this is a coup on them because they feel like the end of the season is a natural end to Slot's time there, and Alonso feels like such a natural transition. There's not many Klopps out there, but Alonso is about as ready-made for a Liverpool manager as you can get. So this is a huge coup for Chelsea. Liverpool fans have to feel like this is something done right, something that they might have missed out on. They might look back on today. George, from a Chelsea fan perspective, you must be excited. What do you think Alonso is going to bring to the squad? And what changes do you think from a tactical perspective do you think Chelsea fans should get excited about?
I was very happy because remember when we spoke about who is likely to be the candidate that Chelsea would go for, I told you of the 6 candidates that are being talked about. Xabi Alonso, the most accomplished of the 6 managers. And I was happy that they've reached an agreement. It's going to be a 4 years contract. And one thing that made me much happier was the fact that his job title is not head coach, but the manager. That's what they call it. He's going to be a manager. So the likes of Liam Rosinio, Enzo Maresca, their job title was head coach. So now we have a Xabi Alonso, who is the manager, who will be very much involved when it comes to players recruitment, which is one of the things I've been advocating for. When you have the manager involved in the process, that will help to make the team much better. And then they've given assurance that in the next coming summer, at least they are going to have two experienced signing, which is something that is very important. So I believe one of the reasons why Xabi Alonso took up the job is based on the fact that the board were able to come to an agreement with him, because he has to work in a very conducive environment for him to succeed. And I'm happy that the board, they've seen their mistakes, they've seen that the model they've been using all these years hasn't worked for the club.
George,
So
do you know
I
how
think
many Chelsea managers have lasted more than 2 years since Roman Abramovich bought the club? More than 2 years.
more than 2 years. Jose Mourinho lasted more than 2 years.
He did. Twice.
He lasted more than 2 years. So,
Anybody else?
um, well, I think Jose Mourinho, I think he's the only person I think he's the only person that I would say that has lasted
He is.
more than.
There's a couple there's a couple that lasted exactly 2 years. Ancelotti and Conte lasted exactly 2 years, but no.
Not more than 2 years. That was
They
what
lasted
you asked.
exactly. They lasted exactly
Yeah.
2 years. So Mourinho is the only one. He lasted more than 2 years twice. He lasted
Yes.
2.5 and 3.5. Ranieri might have he was more than 2 years, but he was the manager when they got bought. But I don't know. I think he's relevant here. But I just don't see Chelsea having this 10-year manager like Liverpool has had, like going through this 5 or 6 or 7-year plan like Arsenal has done with Arteta. They've expressed tremendous patience with him. Man City has had that with Guardiola for 10 years, where they've done that patiently, built that out, and recycled almost the entire team at this point, and are back to being very competitive again. I'm not sure I see that working with Chelsea ownership, and I think that they do not deserve the benefit of the doubt when it comes to just patience to build something like that.
But Joe, you have to look at Pep Guardiola that has been in Man City for 9 years. Now he was getting the results. So at the end of the day, if you are getting the results based on the fact that the club has given you an enabling environment, a conducive environment to work, that means you have your job. But if an enabling environment is given to you, all the tools are given to you, and the results are not forthcoming, that is the only thing that can shorten or short-live your
George,
stay at the club.
how many? In Klopp's first 5 years, how much did he win at Liverpool? You know how many trophies he won?
Maybe you can tell us. How many trophies did he
0.
win?
You know how many trophies Arteta has won at Arsenal?
He has won the FA Cup.
FA Cup once during COVID, yes.
And then I think he also won the Community Shield. But people don't normally talk about that, yeah.
But George, these guys completely rebuilt clubs from the inside out, and they needed a lot of time. And I do feel like Chelsea, it needs that same amount of time. And I'm not sure the manager has that. The owners has that same appetite for time that it takes to build something. They bought a bunch of young players, again, which could become world beaters if they have consistent vision and patience from ownership and fans. Just like Liverpool, just like Arsenal 6 years ago, just like Liverpool 10 years ago when Klopp and Arteta came. So I think it'd be really interesting to see whether that patience exists, whether this is really interesting because maybe Chelsea ownership has changed their perspective on and realized, we need to step back a bit and let somebody who really knows football change our club. So we'll see.
I believe with the new system they are going to follow, most likely, I think they are moving in the right direction. And I believe Alonso needs some time, because the most important thing is if fans can see progress in the team, I'm sure they will give him that time. The problem is if people are not seeing the progress, that's where the issue is going to be. But if there is progress, the way the team is playing, the way they are becoming more competitive, I'm sure the patience will be there. Because if you look at Liverpool, you made mention of under Jurgen Klopp, there was progress the way they were playing. So people had patience with him. So I'm sure if Alonso can show us some good progress, the club should have some patience with him when it comes to performance.
George, Klopp didn't qualify for the Champions League until 2 years into his tenure, which would be the longest tenure of any Chelsea manager other than Mourinho the last 20 years. Arteta, again, I think he didn't get qualified for Champions League for like 3 or 4 years, if I remember right. That would outdo every single Chelsea manager since 2000. I mean, it's been. I just don't see. I'm very curious to see. But I'm sure we'll be here for it and we'll talk about it. Let me close out with our standard questions. Number one, Celtic versus Hearts. Do you feel like this Hearts team can come back and challenge for the league again? It was an exciting year this year. Do you feel like it's okay to storm the field after winning the league 14 times in 15 years? George and I have talked about that. Back to the FA Cup final, the Man City or any of the penalty shouts. Do you feel like Chelsea were robbed on any of those? George and I disagree there. And number four, what changes do you anticipate happening with Xabi Alonso now being the manager of Chelsea? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for listening.